One.
Okay, let's welcome everybody to the October 9th, 2025 meeting of the Templeton Community Preservation Committee. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce, we have two new members to the committee. We have Mr. Ken McClure representing Parks and Rec, and Louise Chafee, who is representing the Templeton Housing Authority. Welcome aboard. We're so glad that you could join us.
Thanks.
Moving ahead, we have minutes from our last meeting, which was September 11th, 2025. You guys have all had them for a while. You can take a moment to review them if you'd like, or we can discuss. They look fine to me.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes when everybody's had a chance to read them.
I'll second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Would anybody like any more time or to discuss?
Okay.
Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes of September 11th, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Next, we have our admin update from.
Hello,
Yes,
everyone. So the 4 CPC supported projects have been submitted to the select board as warrant articles for the fall town meeting. If you don't have the date, fall town meeting is scheduled for November 12th. It's a Wednesday at 6:00 p.m. That's Wednesday, November 12th at 6:00 p.m. My other update is that we did receive the $80,722.69 reimbursement for the grant for the Houghton Park Playground project. We have received it, but it just has not been posted, which is why you won't see it on your financial report. But the project itself is complete. And when John starts talking about finances, the remaining balance can be reverted back to its original fund source. That's it.
Very good, thank
You're
you.
welcome.
And just also for everybody's, in case you haven't heard, the town does have a new town administrator. His name is Mr. James Ryan. I had a chance to introduce myself to him the other day. Seems like he's very knowledgeable. He'd already studied up on past videos and things of the select board, so I think he'll be a great resource for the town. So what we do is we have this sheet here, financial sheet that kind of lists the different accounts that we have. And in the past, we would start talking about other projects and then we start talking about the money, but then we realized it's just as easy to just flow through and review the projects from the list. Okay, so this one that has the account number, whenever a project is awarded, the accountant sets up an account number for the project and allocates the funds that were voted by the citizenry into that account. And that's what you see under projects. If you look under buckets, that's our terminology, because with the community preservation funding, we have three designated funds, one for community housing that we need to appropriate a minimum of 10% per year towards of the annual appropriation, historic resources, which is historic preservation and things like that, and then open space. Those are the three primary buckets, if you will, that have designation. That accounts for typically 30%, allocation, offset, available. And then the rest goes into this undesignated fund balance and the administrative expense balance. We can put up to 5% into the administrative budget. And that's something that once the townspeople pass the article accepting this appropriation, then this committee can do throughout the course of the year, allocate funds from that administrative budget for allowed administrative expenses. It could be helping with a project. It could be signage. It could be a variety of different things. It's also how we pay for our admin support, which has been immeasurable in its value. So the undesignated fund balance is the 65% that's left over, and that's available for those three categories: the community housing, the historic resources, and open space, as well as recreation. Recreation can also be funded out of the open space bucket. So just a little, I know you're going to hear this over and over. You'll be sick of it within 2 months, but this is the first time I get to say it. So at the very top of this sheet, you'll see what the actual, funds have in their balances right now from the accountant. Obviously, the CPA is an allocation from the property tax, and so it's collected throughout the year. So obviously, we get big fluxes towards the end of the quarter when everybody most people pay their property taxes. And so this will go up over time, and these numbers represent, what's come in, what's going out. And these monies here that are in the project funds have been pulled out, if you will, so they are available. They are for the project, but not for future spending, unless we close the account. As Jessica had mentioned, we finished in a project that came in under budget, so then we will vote to revert those funds back to its source, and then it'll be available for a future project. We're under budget for that.
Can I jump on that?
Yeah.
So if you guys look at the buckets under historic resources, you can see I put in bold $801.25. So that's reflecting the emergency management project that finished under budget, and you voted to return the 801.25 to its bucket. As well as if you look under undesignated, that's not that whole sum, but the difference from last month to this month was the Grange Hall lift project and the Gilman Waite tennis courts that finished under balance, and those have been reflected as well. So there is some good work that the new accountant is doing. The next thing that she's working on is combining FY25 with FY26, so you don't have such a cumbersome report. All the FY25s and 26 will roll over into one, as well as if you look at the projects, that you really don't have that many projects. A lot of them are just zero balances. And once accounting does their thing, that'll all get condensed into only what's open.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're
So if you
welcome.
look under project details, you'll see she's highlighted in red,
Right.
checks that have gone out and things like that. We have had, for example, you see the Spencer Sullivan and Voight. That is the Boynton Library project, which has two sources of funding. One is an endowment from the Nordfritz family, and one is the CPA monies. And we had originally expected to pay these two the 6950 and the 975 out of the CPA funds, but they were charged to the other one. It's just a bookkeeping thing. So in the end, that project is gonna chew up the money because that's a major renovation project where the interior is being updated and the knob and tube wiring, replaced, et cetera, et cetera. So that being said, we'll go right to the project list to discuss what these projects are. So the first one you'll see is this one, and it's dated from 2010. So that was actually a project that was voted to create a conservation fund. It was $15,000. Of that, $7,000 was expended, and we've carried this forward. We've had a lot of interest in seeing this closed out by the advisory committee. We've kept it open because there is some discussion about using these funds towards developing our updated open space and recreation plan, which is required to have on file and approved if we are going to seek some grant funding from the Commonwealth, like these land grants, et cetera. We have had some discussion with Montechusett Regional Planning Commission about doing some of that work to get our project back online. The cost is going to exceed $8,000. So what we have to do with this, we have to have a sit down with the select board and see where we're going to go with that, as well as perhaps the Concom, who is a partner in that fund. So that's why that one's 2010. Most of these other ones, you'll see the years that they were voted in. Boynton Library was originally $70,000, and you can see that it has a balance of $61,000. That has gone out to bid to do some renovation work, and a contract was signed with that engineering or architect firm, Spencer Sullivan and Voight, to move that forward. We, as Jessica had mentioned, have requested an additional $60,000 from the citizens to stop this project. The $70,000 from CPA is combined with about $165,000 in that request. So there's about $235,000 that the town is available, but there's some other expenses that will be forthcoming, such as storage and moving of the books when they do the work and contingency. So that's why an article was put forward to move forward on that. So we'll see how that goes.
Sorry.
Okay, so the next one, historic, let's see, so under the project list, Stone Bridge, you can see that these projects have been zeroed out. They've been voted to be closed. That just needs to be reflected by the
Yeah,
accountant.
you should just look at the ones in bold because everything else is zeroed out.
Yeah,
Yep.
this drape restoration project is one of the projects. We funded several projects with the Narragansett Historical Society at Grange Hall. This one for the drape restoration is nearly done. There's some final trim or something we're waiting to have done. Hopefully we'll be able to close that one out soon. The tennis courts thing, that's Gilman Waite, that one has been closed. Just waiting for the accountant to reflect, so keep moving. You see all these other projects that have been zeroed out, those will go away once the books get merged. Dwelly Farm restoration is an ongoing project where we're working with the North County Land Trust to do exotic invasive removal and other related things to that open space over on Berry Road. This Houghton Park thing is a large scale project. Ultimately, a design was made for the overall outlay of the old, where used to be the Auditor School, the Selectman's Office, whatever. That will be Veteran Heroes Park at some point, but a grant was received by the town that will is responsible for all of the playground stuff that's been done in the back there. We're waiting to talk with the select board about having a public opening for that. But as Jessica mentioned, all the paperwork was submitted and we got the grant monies back. That was a 70% match. We got the project cost was under budget, so the amount coming back was less, but it was still reflected the same percentage of the total project cost. So that comes back. So that's good. And we'll get down to that.
If you want to pause there,
Yeah.
if you look at FY 25 and 26, if you do the 41,000 minus the 19, the balance remaining is $22,115.87, and that is the remaining balance of that project. The project is complete, and that can be voted to return to its original fund source, which is open space.
Great. And then the monies that we got from the state went back to its source, which was the undesignated.
Correct. Yep, and that was 80,722.69. It just hasn't been posted.
So this is as good a time as any to do that vote to close out the project for the rehab of Houghton Park. That doesn't mean, we have another project that was actually approved by the town meeting, but it's going to take another grant to get funded. That's separate from this. So if we had a motion to close the account and ask the accountant to transfer $22,115.87 back to the open space reserve, that would be appropriate.
I'll make such a motion.
Second.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion on that? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote, starting with Carrie.
Yes.
George? Dennis?
Yes.
I vote yes. George?
Yes.
Louise?
Yes.
And Ken?
Yes.
Okay, so that is unanimously approved. Thank you very much.
Got it.
Moving on, the Baldwinville School project, you guys, I'm sure are familiar with it. That is a major undertaking. All the monies have been committed. That's why you'll see the zero balance, but the project is obviously far from being done. So we will continue to get updates on that construction as it goes forward. When we do our regular reporting annually, we have to report back to the state what's open, what's closed. Even though we've used the money, the project's not done, so I did not close that account because, till they cut the ribbon. Okay, moving forward, the end of the rehab of Houghton Park. The Grange Hall lift has been completed and we closed that, yeah. The first church, I'm sure if you've driven through Templeton Center, you've seen there's always action going on down there. There's plodding along. That's making great progress. It's a 3-part project, starting with the pediment, the front face, the steeple, and that will hopefully be done before weather is too inclement. This energy management thing you'll see is going to go away. We have these 2 projects at the bottom, the Gilman Waite softball fields. $120,000, and the Houghton Park Ball Field, $125,000. Those were approved at the last annual town meeting. The first one, the $120,000, is available now to start with the project, and we can work with Parks and Rec to help with that. We know that, Candace, when she was involved, she was a driving force behind the project. So with her being gone, we're more than happy to help move that forward. The Houghton Ball Field project vote was contingent on receiving a park grant. So until, and then we have not submitted an application to that. So that is going to be in limbo, because that was the goal, being to get matching funds from the state. And so we'll have to work with, grant writing and Parks and Rec to move forward if that's going to happen. Okay, and I guess that's all the projects that we have ongoing right now. The backside of the sheet is just kind of a breakdown of where the monies come from. Obviously, we have things like a match from the state. We will be receiving a match from the state on November 15th. We haven't even heard yet what the percentage will be and what the total amount will be. But you can see last year we got $177,000. Wait, is that right? 163,000.
Yeah.
$435. And then, so we still have funds available. The monies that were committed at the fall town meeting are for the Baldwinville Congregational Church, Memorial Congregational Church. That will be awarded to the church. Will be responsible for that. It's an exterior project if it is funded at the town meeting. Likewise, the Grange Hall is working with Narragansett Historical Society. Whenever we have a project with an outside entity, which is generally a nonprofit charitable organization, we have a grant award agreement that sets the terms for them to get the money, et cetera, et cetera. So it's very important that we follow the processes and do our due diligence and stay on top of things going forward. And likewise, when we have an internal project, like with the town board or the town department, we have a designated entity that's responsible for it, but they still need to comply with, in that case, the Chapter 30B procurement laws and this, that, and the other thing. So we work closely with the town administrator to make sure everything's up to snuff on all that. And so those two projects that have been proposed and will be on the special town meeting is the additional funding for the Boynton Library Rehabilitation Project and $5,900 for the Agricultural Commission to support a community garden at the senior center. Okay, so that's where we are with current projects and finances. Do you guys have any questions? Does anybody want any clarification? Hearing none, we'll just move on. As I kind of got ahead of myself and already talked about the town meeting articles that we have forthcoming. Any questions on the articles or anything related to that? All right. Under potential projects, this is an opportunity, obviously we have a cycle where whenever there's a warrant open, there could be whether it's an annual town meeting in May or a special town meeting throughout the year. When the warrant is open, that's when we can vote on proposals, but we like to talk and develop and discuss projects throughout the year. So it's not just throw a bunch of napkins at us on the last day and say, I want to do that. So develop a project. And so does anybody have anything they want to bring up in that regard? Obviously, we've just been through this. And another thing you're going to hear when we get towards the end is that we also have to hold an annual needs analysis meeting. That's when we invite the public's always invited to come to our meetings, but this is a specific portion where it's required by statute that we hold this to give everybody an opportunity to discuss about potential projects and to get an update on, what the town's needs are projected to be.
I have one possible one. Back when, well, at least 5 years ago, when we were starting to talk about the Baldwinsville Elementary School, high school project, reuse actually of the building. When the finally was decided on this contractor coming in and doing a housing project, I requested that they also put down some kind of a marker someplace, some kind of remembrance of the fact that it was a high school at one time, and maybe some additional information on that. they agreed very willingly at that time about doing that. Now that they're working on it, I don't know, I might wanna try to see if I can reapproach somebody over there about putting something up. It might require us to spend some money to do that, but, that's, it'll maybe another year or two before that comes up, but.
Yes, keep that on the radar. That we have had discussions. Jessica has had contact with the MPZ, the firm about the required signage, for a community preservation project and specific to the historical marker. We've had this discussion. Did we have we recently got any updates from them?
Not regarding that, I just know in their comprehensive permit, when they went in front of the ZBA, they did request putting up a sign, but I don't think it's a historic sign. I think it's more of like an address and,
This would be something separate from the market from the CPA funds. This would be, the class of 57, which was the last graduating class from that high school, has a small sum of money, a little less than $500. They would be willing to contribute to having something put up there. And it might require some additional CPA funds to complete that project. So that, in that case, it would have to also include the fact that it came from CPC, but that will.
Yeah, now there's many ways that we can look at supporting that project. And I think what we'll want to do is to have a sit down with the developers there
Right.
and then outreach to the class that may have some funds. So we make sure that whatever is done is represented. I don't see them having any issues with that in terms of,
No.
location and content and whatever. If it's administrative funds that we use in support of the larger project, which is essentially what this would be, the signage related to CPA would cover for that. So this sign could be totally dedicated to the historical nature, in my understanding and opinion.
So John, are you asking for any potential projects that, like, we as members want to possibly bring to the table?
Yep, absolutely. So, I mean, obviously, it doesn't have to be recreation only from you. Like if
Yeah.
you knew some historic project or something that you wanted to see, but as you speak to your committee, you can develop, what is next on the radar? What would you like to see? There is a pretty, good resource, communitypreservation.org, and we can email that out to you, where they have things like, is my project eligible? But there's also an inventory of every project that's been done in the whole state in the last 20 years that they've had this thing.
Yeah.
So you can see, because it does have to, fit one of the categories, but there's a lot and sometimes it's a combined project, could be historic and recreational and open space, this, that, and the other thing. So did you have anything on top of your mind you wanted to bring up?
So not necessarily historic, but definitely on open space and rec.
Yeah.
I grew up here. I've been in Templeton 43 years. And one thing I would really love to see relatively soon would be a skate or bike park for the kids. I'm not sure if many people are aware, we've had several issues with bikes. There's a lot of kids with bikes here in town. You go through the center of Bonneville, you see them at Duncan's, you'll see them at Cumberland's, e-bikes, the scooters. And there's really no space to put them right now, especially at Gilman, which is kind of an ongoing issue. More so with not appropriately using like the basketball courts, because they don't have a place to go. We have stopped them from being on the walking trail because we have some issues with that. But even as a kid, that was something I wanted, was a skate park here in town. And I know it had been talked and they've been chatted before, but that wholeheartedly believe that is something this town could use. Our school is expanding, we got the affordable housing going in Baldwinville. I really think this would be the time to have a project like that done here in town, personally.
Great. Yeah, I mean, we did have some discussion about that, even at Houghton Park about, doing part of that whole park rehabilitation thing. And then it was like, location was even identified. There is a master plan for that property. It didn't go forward. That does not mean it can't be revisited.
Yeah.
How does it work? There was some concern that neighbors, there's always concerns about that. but whatever's best for the community is what we're here to support. And the voters ultimately decide how the monies get spent.
Yeah.
So a good way to go forward with that is to kind of take a look at, well, what would be the best size or area that you would need, and what parcels do we have that could perhaps contain that, and maybe it becomes, Houghton Park is the best location for that, or, where are the students now? I mean, Gilman Wade is pretty full already, basically, with between all the ball fields and whatnot, and so that's something and there's also been needs for collecting data, doing surveys, so it makes the case easier, to tell if you say, okay, I've got like 14 families, that have bikes, etc.
Being shut down.
So when you say it was presented before and didn't move forward, could you fill me in on that?
Yeah, so that was brought forward by Candace Graves when she was with Parks and Rec about putting a skate park in the back of Houghton Park.
Yep.
As you're facing it off to the right, well, basically behind the ball field.
Okay,
And that was the intent was, or the goal was to include that within this proposed Houghton Park park grant, the next phase. That ended up not getting included into or referenced in the article. So we can get you the details of what is in that proposal that was voted, and then what it might take if we were to modify that or add to it, or, so basically it didn't go forward, but that doesn't mean it's dead. It just
Okay.
means it's not active.
okay,
Would it be, just thinking about the discussion we had when it came up the first time, there was some question as to need or location or, different issues. Maybe the first step is to put in a grant proposal for a fairly comprehensive study, looking at the town, looking at properties, looking at the need, looking at location, and maybe that is the best first step. And just a suggestion or just a thought based upon, what our discussion was last time.
Yeah, and you think about it. So, for example, another approach could be, if we're looking at land that, is right now, like we have 2 ball fields on the Army Corps land, Little League field down there. Maybe a skate park could get put in down there as well. That would be closer to all the highest density of population in the community.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's map it out, talk about it. I like Carrie's idea, we can get some guidance from professionals related to what would it take, how do we design it? We'd like to get a project that's, well thought out and designed to go forward, and then the pricing and all that challenge is easier done when we have an external person or firm supporting that. So that might be a step as well. So the thing to think about is, okay, what do we want to do? How do we want to evolve this project with the eye that the next opportunity that we would have to present something to the town would be in May? So therefore, now is a good time to develop some thoughts. Recruiting people that come in for that needs analysis meeting from the community to help guide the process would also be valuable. That will likely happen in January. That's good timing for that. But that's what we would like to hear, ideas, and then how, what does it mean? How do you do it? How do you get there? So we welcome that. Any other thoughts or discussions on that? Or any other potential projects? Yeah, and so we'll have plenty of time going forward to continue to move on these, and we can dialogue with you. I can talk to you directly, or we can share content and kind of see what can be done.
thank you.
Yeah. So the next item on the agenda, number 6, is chair member comments. The only comment that I have is, and I was gonna bring it under the next meeting, but I've already mentioned that this annual needs analysis meeting, we talked about, setting that. We typically do it in January in conjunction with our January meeting. We obviously meet the second Thursday of the month, and we usually have the needs analysis meeting like half an hour beforehand.
Yep.
That would be 6:30 on January 8th. we need to set the date because we also have to, put it in the newspaper and make it a public hearing announcement type thing. When actually, most people just get it on Facebook, but we have to pay the Guardian News or.
All that law. Mhm.
So that being said, what do you guys think about having our needs analysis meeting on, at 6:30 PM on January 8th, 2026?
Sounds like a great idea.
Yes.
Okay, so let's just set that. I don't think we need to vote
No,
that.
you don't. It's fine. I know what to do.
Okay, so I have no more comments. Are there any other members that would like to make any comments? Hearing none, the next meeting is scheduled for November 13th. Unfortunately, this meeting is an annual problem for me because I have a conflict with another organization. And I am unable to attend November 13th. Therefore, we could discuss you guys having the meeting or changing the meeting or just not holding a meeting. As you know, the town meeting is the night before. We could probably, stand to take a month off. Although,
I think it might be advisable to consider doing that because town meeting sometimes runs over for a second night, so.
If town meeting runs over, the TCTV will have to go to town meeting and not our meeting.
yeah, so unless anybody has a problem with that, I think we're gonna not hold a November meeting. And just have the December 11th meeting as the next meeting.
Yep.
And then you'll be able to cancel.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay,
And
and
December 11th, we'll talk about how town meeting went and prep for needs analysis.
yeah, great. That being said,
I'll second.
motion's been made, seconded, adjourned. Any reason not to do so?